for mass murder, what happens when you carry out a bombing in a public place, like in the case of Dzhokhar Tsarnaev? As per reports, on April 15, 2013, Dzhokhar and his elder brother Tamerlan Tsarnaev detonated 2 homemade pressure cooker bombs near the finish line of the Boston Marathon, killing 3 people and injuring hundreds of others. The first bomb went off right at the finish line. CCTV caught the 2 brothers making their way to the finish line with the bombs in their backpacks. While onlookers were still trying to comprehend the first blast, Dzhokhar placed his backpack and moved away. "12 seconds later, the second bomb exploded.
I saw one guy with his legs gone at the knees, some ankles and feet missing.
Paramedics rushed the injured to nearby medical facilities amid the chaos. Dzhokhar escaped with the crowd, and the brothers went on the run. CCTV footage shows the 2 brothers approaching MIT officer Sean Collier's squad car. The brothers assassinated Collier and fled the scene, unable to steal his gun. They then carjacked an SUV and forced the owner to ride with them. When they stopped at a nearby gas station, the owner escaped and called 911.
Sir, listen to me. I'm going to ask you a couple questions.
Sure.
All right, just take a deep breath. Okay.
Okay.
Tell me what happened. Somebody took your car?
Yeah. They say that they are the suspect of the marathon explosion.
Authorities pinged the stolen car, and 2 officers responded to the scene. A shootout followed.
Reported shots fired at officers trying to stop the vehicle. We need assistance immediately. Shots fired again. Shots fired again. Please eyes. We get a report from the patrol supervisor that these suspects has unplausible dynamite type explosives with them, and they're throwing it at the officers that are responding.
Tamerlan was shot multiple times.
8 bullets in him, and he was still fighting us.
While the officers were grappling with Tamerlan on the ground, Dzhokhar took the wheel and tried to run over all of them. He narrowly missed the officers and ran over Tamerlan instead.
And I'm laying there and I saw the front wheels go over Tamerlan. I saw him bounce up and underneath the undercarriage a couple of times. I saw him get hung up in the rear wheels and get dragged 20, 25 feet.
Dzhokhar fled with the car, leaving his brother behind. Tamerlan later died at the hospital.
Officers responded. We have one body pinned down, and we have another one on the run. Shots fired.
The suspect's uncle called his nephews losers and asked Dzhokhar to surrender.
What do you think provoked this?
Being losers.
What do you say to Dzhokhar right now? He is still.
I say, Dzhokhar, if you're alive, turn yourself in and ask for forgiveness.
Subsequently, a manhunt was launched to capture Dzhokhar. Later, authorities received a strange 911 call.
I have a boat in my yard. There's blood all over the inside. There's a person in the boat.
Police soon surrounded the area.
Clear the air. I'm in the rear of the yard. I got eyes on the boat.
A chopper equipped with thermal cameras hovered over the covered boat. Suddenly, there were multiple shots fired. A robot was sent in to rip the canvas tarp over the boat.
If they're able to successfully rip that off, he'll be fully exposed.
Eventually, Dzhokhar surrendered. He was badly injured but survived. In court, Dzhokhar apologized to the victims and the survivors.
I am sorry for the lives that I have taken, for the suffering that I've caused you, for the damage that I've done.
However, the family members of the victims were not happy with his apology.
He said that he was remorseful. I find that hard to believe. It really does not change anything for me because what he took from me, I'm never going to be able to regain.
Dzhokhar was found guilty of all charges and sentenced to death by lethal injection. While Dzhokhar Tsarnaev received the death penalty for a terror attack, how does it compare to murdering your co-workers, like in the case of 39-year-old Martez Abram, a double murder suspect in Mississippi?
That's you shooting him?
Yes.
And you admit that you shot him in cold blood?
Yes.
As per reports, on July 30th, 2019, Abrams shot and killed 2 co-workers, Anthony Brown and Brandon Gales at Walmart in South Haven. Walmart had recently suspended him for showing a knife to another employee.
By the time I was walking out, you just see people running past me, and I was, I'm just thinking, and you just hear gunshots.
He has been charged with 2 counts of murder.
Abram appeared for his extradition hearing from the hospital bed.
The authorities and the governor of the state of Tennessee, as what's called the asylum state, where you are, Tennessee, has a duty and obligation to render up any prisoner being held at the request of a demanding state concerning an offense such as this murder.
When the trial began, the prosecutor argued that this attack was planned days in advance.
He planned for 3 days. He arrived at the Walmart on July 30th at 6:28 a.m. and the evidence will show that at that time the defendant executed Anthony Brown in the parking lot with 1 shot. He killed him in the parking lot and then went inside and hunted down and killed Brandon Gales.
Eyewitnesses recounted the events of the attack.
He was laying on the ground with his eyes open, full of blood, and I ran up to him. I kneeled down, and I looked at him. I said, Anthony, honey, please say KC one more time. Just say KC one more time.
The injured cop too appeared in court and gave testimony.
I parked my vehicle. I got out of my vehicle. Once I got out of my vehicle, I heard gunshots, and I felt the pressure of the bullet hit my back, and I blacked out for like 2 seconds because I thought I was dead, but I realized I had been shot.
Later in court, the prosecution forced Abram to watch the video of his attack. He couldn't watch it and broke down while confessing his crimes.
Mr. Gale is on the floor going down to this point, isn't he?
Yes.
And that's you shooting him, right?
Yes.
Okay, proceed. Tyler, look at the screen, sir.
Yes.
That's you shooting him?
Yes.
Can you admit that you shot him in cold blood?
Yes.
And then it stopped. You shot him again, didn't you?
Yes.
He soon learned his fate.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Martez Terrell Abram, guilty of capital murder in count 1. We, the jury, find the defendant, Martez Terrell Abram, guilty of capital murder in count 2. We, the jury, find the defendant, Martez Terrell Abram, guilty of attempted murder in count 3.
Before sentencing, the families of the victims made their statements.
We are a Christian family. And Mr. Martez, God requires us to forgive you for what you did. It didn't happen overnight. Forgiveness didn't come that easily. But with prayer, over time, we were able to forgive you for what you done.
I feel the consequences of your actions on July the 30th, 2019 should cost you your life on this earth. But they do not have to cost you your eternity. God will forgive you of your sins, and He is the only one that can save your soul.
Martez Abram was found guilty of all charges and sentenced to death.
In count 1, I will sentence you to death. Count 2, you will be sentenced to death. In count 3, you will be sentenced to death.
Abram's stepmother acknowledged the crime but believed that the punishment was unjust.
What about nationwide when there have been mass murders that have not got the death penalty? What about those that kill children and innocent babies and those things? What about that?
Martez Abram is currently on death row for murdering 2 people. This is 24-year-old Nicholas Cruz, the mass murder suspect in Florida.
My name is Nick, and I'm going to be the next school shooter of 2018. My goal is at least 20 people.
As per reports, on February 14th, 2018, Cruz shot and killed 17 people and wounded 17 others at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Florida. Before the tragic incident, Cruz made several videos of himself revealing his plans.
Alright, so here's the plan. I'm going to go take an Uber in the afternoon before 2:40. From there, I'll go onto school campus, walk up the stairs, unload my bags, and get my AR and shoot people down at the main courtyard, await, and people will die.
Location is Stone Douglas in Parkland, Florida. It's gonna be a big event.
Days before the attack, footage taken by a neighbor caught Cruz practicing shooting in his backyard. During the attack, students and staff hid in corners and cupboards to avoid being shot. Just minutes after the shooting, Cruz can be seen calmly ordering an icy from a nearby Subway. Cruz was arrested and charged with 17 counts of murder and 17 counts of attempted murder.
Nick Cruz came and sat down right next to me.
All right. Did you know who he was?
No.
Just sat down?
Just sat down next to me. I didn't think much of it because I was panicked.
What did he ask you?
He asked me for a ride.
And what did you say?
He was pretty insistent on it, and I said no.
During his trial, Cruz told a state psychiatrist that he hoped one of the students would come up and hug him while he was shooting other people.
What's going on? What's going on today, bro?
The demons, man.
Demons?
Voices. Where am I? Holy what happened?
Shut up.
Just be quiet, man.
Cruz also said that he hoped his victims would scream more instead of just passing out. He added, "I thought they would scream, I was more like they passed out."
At one point in the interview, he suggested that, maybe he had hoped one would hug him. He also suggested at one point that he understood that they might have fear or run from him.
Now in court, family members of the victims got the chance to address the shooter directly.
I thought they would scream. I was more like they passed out.
Okay.
Passed out and blood just came out, pouring out of their head.
Okay.
It was really nasty and sad to see.
And I sat with Attorney Satz and I watched you kill my daughter on video. I look at you sitting there right now, looking the way you should have looked through the entire trial, like a convicted murderer. My hope, my prayer for my birthday present is to get word that you are dead, that the justice system was done in jail, that the prisoners that you and inmates that you have to associate with executed the judgment that this court can't. And I hope that it's the most painful judgment ever.
Cruz was found guilty of all 34 charges. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
Count 1 of the indictment, the murder in the first degree of Luke Hoyer, the court imposes a sentence of life in prison without the possibility of parole. Mr. Cruz, you are remanded to the custody of the Department of Corrections to complete the mandatory life sentences imposed by the court.
The victims' families were outraged by the decision to spare Cruz from the death penalty.
Today, the wrong verdict was given.
We are beyond disappointed with the outcome today.
I'm stunned. I'm devastated.
While Nicholas Cruz was sentenced to life in prison, but what happens when you kill your neighbors? Like in the case of Francisco Oropeza, a mass murder suspect in Texas? According to reports, Oropeza shot and killed 5 members of a family, including a 9-year-old boy. Police said that the shooting occurred at around 10:30 p.m. on Friday, April 28, 2023, after the victims had asked Oropeza to stop shooting his rifle in his backyard because they were trying to put a baby to sleep. Oropeza allegedly responded with profanity and threats, then walked to the victim's house and opened fire with an AR-15 semi-automatic rifle.
Everybody that was shot from the neck up, almost execution style.
I put myself in their shoes. I couldn't imagine one of my family members going through that.
I wouldn't hesitate. If I have to protect myself and protect my kids, I will use it.
One of the survivors of the shooting later described the horrific incident.
Me dijo que me aventara por la ventana porque ya mis hijos ya estaban sin mamá. Murió mi esposa y murió mi niño de 9 años. ¿Qué le puedo decir? Tratando de ser fuerte por mis hijos, porque igual mi hija está, ya más o menos se entiende. Es bien difícil cuando ella viene y te empieza a preguntar por mamá y luego por su hermano.
Another survivor said that Oropeza's actions were completely unexpected.
This tragedy that unfolded, he had no right
We never offended him. We never disrespected him. I'm scared because he can come back and look for us, but we're hoping that police do their job and arrest him.
After the shooting, Oropeza was on the run and evaded capture for 4 days. He was finally arrested following a massive manhunt.
The suspect is in custody.
He's under arrest right now. The man accused of killing 5 of his neighbors in San Jacinto County is behind bars.
Oropeza was found hiding in a relative's house in Cut and Shoot, a town about 15 miles away from the crime scene.
We now have this man in custody. He was caught hiding in a closet underneath some laundry.
He appeared in court with handcuffs on.
Francisco Oropeza, the man accused of killing 5 of his neighbors in San Jacinto County, went before a judge today.
Oropeza was charged with capital murder.
This is no surprise that he was indicted for capital murder. The stakes are raised to a death sentence. That's the difference in the case. It takes some time for them to determine if this is a case that they will seek death. But when you have a multiple murder situation and children that are killed, I'm going to be highly surprised if they don't take the opportunity here to seek the death sentence.
Francisco Oropeza pled not guilty to the murders. The case is still ongoing, while Oropeza faces the death penalty for murdering 5 people. How does it compare to killing multiple people in a movie theater, like in the case of James Holmes, a mass murder suspect in Colorado?
Well, the mission was to go to the theater and shoot as many people as possible.
According to reports, on July 20th, 2012, Holmes killed 12 people and injured 70 others in a movie theater in Aurora, Colorado, during a screening of The Dark Knight Rises. Before entering the theater, Holmes sat down for 30 minutes in his car. First, he popped painkillers, then put on his gear. 30 minutes later, authorities received a 911 call from the theater. Finally, he grabbed his guns. Holmes was caught on camera entering the theater.
Where's your emergency? I can't hear you. What address? I can't hear you. Give me the address again. Say it loud.
315 and 314 for a shooting at Century Theaters, 14300 East Alameda Avenue. They're saying somebody's shooting in the auditorium. There is at least one person that's been shot, but they're saying there's hundreds of people just running around.
Did they have a party shot here? Need rescue hot.
We got another person outside shot in the leg, a female. I got people running out of the theater. They're shot.
Officers were unable to enter the theater because of thick smoke.
Do we have gas masks available? Any units that can bring gas masks to Theater 9. Again, we need gas masks.
Get us some damn gas masks for Theater 9. We can't get in it.
Upon entering the theater, chaos ensued.
Need rescue inside the auditorium. Multiple victims. I got 7 down in Theater 9. 7 down. I've got a child victim. I need rescue at the back door of Theater 9 now. Cars with that white car in the rear of the lot. Is that a suspect? Yes, we've got rifles, gas masks. Okay, hold that position. Hold your suspect.
A rescue operation soon began.
Get a stage in the Dillard's lot. I need as many ambulances as we can to the Dillard's lot. I want my fire trucks there also, and I'll start bringing them in to triage people and get them out. I'm taking one man to the hospital in my car. Start me Denver cars this way too. I need more help.
Cop cars turned into ambulances due to a shortage of emergency vehicles.
If I've got one ambulance here, where are my ambulances at? Do I have permission to start taking some of these victims via car? I got a whole bunch of people shot out here, no rescue. Yes, load them up, get them in cars, get them out of here.
Holmes was arrested and brought in for interrogation, where he asked officers if any children were hurt in the shooting.
If you have any questions, please feel free to ask, okay?
The sign said victim services unit, children's something.
Uh-huh. Yeah, well, yeah, what about that?
There wasn't any children hurt.
But Holmes's plan didn't end at the theater. He understood the cops would search his apartment after the arrest, and when police arrived, they were stunned by what they found. Holmes was sent for a psychiatric evaluation, where he described his plans and the events of the shooting.
You wanted to kill people.
Right.
As you were planning to do it in this way, was the plan generally that you would be killing at least some of them by shooting through theater seats? Or was that not particularly thought beforehand?
That didn't come around beforehand.
How did you think they would be killed beforehand?
Sitting in their seats.
Thinking about it beforehand, did you think that some people would be running, hunkering down?
Yes. That's why I left an exit route available so they don't fight. They can escape by running down the right aisleway.
Okay.
Holmes said that carrying out the killings cured his depression and increased his self-worth.
Just doing the homicide got me out of the depression.
Talk to me about the necessity of carrying out the shootings themselves after the preparation had done its job.
Well, the shootings were supposed to increase my self-worth.
During Holmes's first court appearance, he was seen with orange hair dyed to appear just like the Batman villain, the Joker. In court, witnesses and survivors provided their testimonies.
I had to save our unborn child because I thought Caleb was going to die, and I thought to myself, that's going to be the last piece of him that I have to save him. So I grabbed Caleb's hand, and he actually squeezed my hand, and I told him that I loved him and that I would take care of our baby if he didn't make it.
I tried to ignore the pain and try to stay in the same position that I was in, but then the pain got too unbearable, and I look down in my leg and I see this big gaping hole.
Eventually, the jury reached a verdict on Holmes.
We, the jury, find the defendant, James Egan Holmes, guilty of murder in the first degree after deliberation.
James Holmes was found guilty on 165 counts, including murder and attempted murder. He was sentenced to 3,318 years in prison.
So the record is clear. It's 12 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole. And then those life sentences are also consecutive to 3,318 years in the Department of Corrections. I am 100% sure that these are just and fair. I want to make it clear that it is the court's intention.
Thank you for tuning in. The stories we've shared today are tragic reminders of the devastation that violence can bring to innocent lives. As we reflect on these cases,